All right, ladies and gentlemen, if I can have your attention. So continue to enjoy your lunch, enjoy good conversation. But if you don't mind, we're going to start the program because I'm sure we all want to hear the good news from TxDot. But to start our program and to be our moderator for our fireside chat, ladies and gentlemen, I'm asking Mustafa Tamiz, our board chair, to join us on stage.
Well, good afternoon. First, I want to, Christina mentioned the board of TAG. I just want to ask my fellow board members to stand one more time, if you don't mind, because I want to honor their service to our industry. So please, Carol, Jeff, can you all stand for a second? The entire board works very hard throughout the year. We are, going through a process. Jeff, Carol, and Jack have been working on inviting new board members, so we'll be expanding the board, asking some of you to join us on the board level. We're in the process of creating new opportunities, new ways to serve. So more to come on that as we move forward. I also want to, Jeff Collins was a big help on this particular event, as well as our friend Darren had done a lot. Anything TxDot in general, we lean on Darren a lot for his expertise, for his relationships, and the work he does. So thank you, Jeff and Darren, both for your hard work on this. This is an annual event for us, for those of you that are here for the first time. We invite TxDot to come in and do a state of TxDot. And it's a great opportunity to know what's going on in the agency. This year, we're really, really excited to have our new commissioner. Steve's been a great addition to TxDot and TxDot leadership, has a great deal of experience. I can start talking about NewQuest, and then I'll make you all jealous of the success he's had in the real estate business. But if you don't mind, Steve, come join us on the stage. And Eliza, if you can come join me as well, that'd be great. As they're coming up, let me just kind of. Steve's a co-founder and managing partner of NewQuest Properties. He has started NewQuest Properties in 1985 and has developed retail centers throughout Texas and Southwest. NewQuest Properties represents 75 national, regional, and local tenants, having developed over 15 million square feet. Now, let me just kind of say, 15 million square feet is, I think if I'm not wrong, that's half of Central Park, just to give you a sense of the scale and the size of the development that NewQuest has done. And then right now it's over $2 billion. NewQuest Properties is the largest privately held shopping center developers in Texas. It's bachelor degrees from Texas A&M. Texas A&M, that's it? That's it? Resides in Hockley with Judge Duhan leads, and just is a great civic leader. And then with Eliza, here's what I want to say about Eliza Paul. Eliza Paul is not just a friend to many of us in this region. She has navigated this region through difficult decisions and has done a phenomenal job in kind of moving the ball forward in a thoughtful, deliberate way. Eliza, we want to thank you for being here today, but thank you for your leadership throughout TxDot. All right, we changed our seats. All right, so
okay.
let me just start here. Commissioner, since coming on board at TxDot in May, what have you found to be the most challenge in transportation in the region? Like what are the things that are coming in your mind as our biggest challenges?
Well, first, it's my homework to learn all the acronyms. I have to study every night. And you added 25 more here today, so I'll brush up on those. But you know, it's a big machine. 13,000 people, let me tell you, they're all great. We got some talented people in the state. I've worked in other states, and I believe we've attracted the most talented. And then, of course, we have unprecedented funding. So I like to borrow a phrase from Ned Holmes, former commissioner. Giving people back their time is important. If we can give them 20 minutes in, 20 minutes out, that's a game changer for a family. And So, TxDot didn't have as many challenges as I thought they had. I think they have a little bit of a perception problem, especially on the customer service side, and we'll talk about that a little bit today. And but clearly unprecedented funding. We have let $12 billion in the last fiscal year. That's a record, all-time record. So,
Eliza, like looking at it just in the Houston region, what are the challenges that you see that you're looking to address as we go forward?
Well, a big part in the Houston area, we talk about congestion. Houston has continuously been named as top. We were just driving over here, and we drove through the 610 West Loop to come to this hotel. And I told Mark Williams that this is the #1 most congested highway in the entire state. So congestion is definitely a big part. And what TxDot is doing is we're looking at all these 100 most congested roadway in Houston, in the state, really, and targeted, Chairman has targeted these roadway projects and the clear lane projects to try and get a lot of these corridors progress as quickly as possible. The second thing I just want to go into real quick is safety is always a big problem for us. TxDot, #1, safety is the main issues that we need to deal with. And since COVID, the numbers has not really gone down very much. It's still people are speeding, driving very fast. So TxDot is coming out with a lot of safety programs to try and capture and improve the safety both systemically and also on individual area. So we're doing it through our 3 E's, our education, engineering, and enforcement. So we're doing those things to try and improve safety. One last thing I just want to mention is the freight traffic and the freight transportation and the resiliency of these regions are a big challenge for us. We are having more and more people move into Houston, and the amount of goods that we all need, the clothes that we're wearing, the foods that we're eating. So there's a lot of truck traffic that is moving around from the port to the different cities trying to deliver all these goods and services to us. So that's one major thing we need to deal with and try and come up with ways to deal with that. The other thing is Houston is a big flood-prone area. So everything we do now, we're following the Harris County Atlas 14 drainage criteria, and every chance we get when we are doing a project, we're going to try and improve the drainage and get homes out of the floodplain as much as we can. So.
Commissioner, I was talking about your business and real estate experience. And the more I read, I thought I knew you, but I learned that there's a lot more that you've done in the real estate and coming from the industry. What's kind of from a policy standpoint, what kind of guidelines and directions would you have for TxDot? Because you've been in the industry for a long time. You work with TxDot from the private sector standpoint. What's in your mind when it comes to policy and directive guidelines to TxDot?
Yeah. Well, first I want to thank Governor Abbott for appointing me, and believing in me, gave me some pretty clear direction that we're all in the economic development business. And, we've got to build roads for economic prosperity. When the governor came into office, Texas was the 11th largest economy in the world. Today we're the 8th. California went from 5th to 6th. And by golly, by the end of his next term, we better be at 5th. And so we've got to really think in an economic development standpoint, and having visited about a third of the district offices over my 35-year career building projects in Texas. There were cycles. Sometimes it was easy, sometimes it was hard. And so I remember the easy times, kind of when those decisions were made at the local level. Why would it take 2 years to get a permit in some cases? And I'll tell you, I'll put some blame on the engineering group today, because I've been fielding calls from developers. And recently, I won't mention his name because everybody in this room probably knows him, but he's just hot under the collar. He can't get his permit. And then I said, well, who's your engineer and who's working with TxDot? And I just drilled down to every little detail from the beginning of that permit. And at the end of the day, he didn't know what he was doing. He got his permit number, never filled out the application and sent it in. You know, so he just assumed we were going to hand carry him all the way through. So there's a little bit of fault on our side that we didn't hand carry him, but there's no reason permits can't be quick. And, you know, I had one permit person, I won't say which district it was, that came from California, and when we were about 1.5 years into the permit, he said, what are you talking about? It's 5 or 6 years in California. This is quick. I said, no, this is Texas. This is can-do Texas. I mean, we lost Micron over how quick something could get done, you know, and so if we're going to have the best of the companies move to Texas, we've got to respond quickly. And we're addressing that now. We've cut 90 to 120 days off the permit process already. That's in place. You will no longer have to wait on a donation agreement to go up to Austin and get on the commission agenda. The day the engineer knows that they're going to give you that permit, they no longer have to wait on that donation agreement to be complete. We're going to do that as a matter of just general practice after the fact so you can get started. You know, in real estate, time kills deals. And, you know, the one thing in common about TxDot and roads is there's real estate next to every one of them, right? And whether it's industrial or multifamily or residential or retail, it doesn't really matter. That's the engine. That's the machine of Texas. And so it's important we fix that. You know, in condemnation on new roads, we had a log jam at the Attorney General's office. We had 3,500 cases of condemnation going on across the state. That's just too many, and it was taking a year time or more to get a condemnation done, which should be a 90-day process. I was going to say, no, I need 120. But so we got consent from the governor and the attorney general to hire outside firms, as a lot of you firms participate in smaller municipalities and counties and pipelines, to perform those condemnation procedures in a more timely manner. But that's going to clearly speed up 45 and some other projects, and so it's important we do that.
Yep. Commissioner Garcia, that sounds familiar to you? Yeah. And I think that's a challenge we face across the board, whether it's the city or the county and other places, that permitting process is something that we've got to all come together and start rethinking it. Clearly, like transportation and economic development go hand in glove. What are some of your thoughts about the trajectory of Texas? You started to talk about where we want to go in terms of the ranking, right? But the viability and where do you see helping Texas excel?
Yeah. Well, the governor asked Chairman Bugg and myself to co-chair a new task force relative to economic development and customer service. Imagine that, customer service. And, we look back at some of the roads built in Texas, like 130. What a great highway. But, Newquest was the first one on that road, and we were there by ourselves for a long time. But, you go to it now, and it looks like Frisco, from Tesla up to Samsung. And if there's 24 cranes in the air right now. So we've got to get more aggressive in building our greenfield roads that we know are coming. In the Texas region, we've got to finish Grand Parkway, Segment C, and I think Eliza has that well underway now. 36A is critical, a north-south corridor, and that environmental is ordered now from south of Rosenberg to 290. We're trying to expedite that, but if you think of those, I've lived here long enough to remember Beltway 8 being built and how long it took to build that out, and then Grand Parkway. Of course, Grand Parkway, when finished, will be 167 miles long. It's a big rascal. We can build San Antonio and Dallas and Houston all over again around that. And it's filling up. As you drive it, it's getting, nice corporate campuses, and when you can take them from San Francisco and get Chevron to move to the Grand Parkway, it's pretty big. And so we've got to be ready. We've got to have shovel-ready projects You know, we've got to have industrial centers that are shovel-ready. I got a call this morning from a 300,000-foot warehouse that needs to go today. And so we've already sent that out to some folks that can do that. But we have to be ready. There's a lot of companies that want to move to Texas. It's a really good place to be with a 30 billion plus surplus when you look at California and they got a $30 billion deficit. We need to be here, and we've got the funding to build these roads now. You know, Prop 1 and Prop 7 got extended in this legislative session. We need to make that in perpetuity. I'd ask everybody in this room to really work hard in the next session. That's got to be a designated funding source for TxDot in perpetuity. And you just can't plan for roads that are 10 years out. You know, I remember Grand Parkway was 35 years out from, you know, when we first envisioned it. That's too long. And the other thing that got passed in this session that some of you may not be aware of, it's absolutely mission critical. In the past, with Grand Parkway, if you can remember, we were waiting on the right-of-way environmental statement to be finished and where was it going to be. And Houston in their ETJ really couldn't require the developer to set aside that right-of-way for the future widening. So you know, like segment E moved, I think, 5 times. You know, every time a subdivision built, we got to move it further out. I'm sorry, can't hear?
Okay. No, we can hear you.
Okay. Everybody hear okay? So, you know, that doesn't work because sometimes these right-of-way studies take a very long time to get done, and the growth we're having today, look at Waller County with 30,000 coming lots, you know, right now. If we don't start setting aside 36A now, it's going to get bumped further west. And so the legislature passed a new legislation, House Bill 3982, Robinson? 3697. That a county can adopt their major thoroughfare plan and come to TxDot and get us to approve it. And then the county then can require developers to set that right-of-way aside. That's absolutely mission critical with the growth we're having in Texas. You know, the growth is killing us in Beaumont, trying to get the connectivity roads built, but before we can even get to them, there's a subdivision in the middle of it. And so we're trying to build our connectivities from urban out so that we get to the growth areas first. But this was a great session for transportation. Yeah. I don't think TxDot could have had a better session.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's our great state to screw up. We've got to get after it.
Yeah. There's a sense of urgency in how we approach this stuff. Like when you look at the locally, like from the district, what are the key things you're looking at in terms of projects and things to deliver and to move out?
Yeah, what Commissioner said about saving the right-of-way for future development. You know, we've been looking at that on Hempstead Highway. Is one of the roadway that we were supposed to be doing it with 290 at the time. And Hempstead Highway, our side beltway is still in all new location. And then currently the development is not there yet. But if we don't start doing something with it, the development is already coming to that area. So we've been talking and planning and trying to and that project is environmentally approved. So we actually have an alignment. So we know where we need to put our alignment. So if we can start some of these earlier right-of-way acquisition process, that will lock down the right-of-way before it becomes developed and all that. We're looking at some of the project we're doing out west on I-10, trying to do the widening in anticipation of all the distribution center and the development that is coming out there on I-10 West. 36A, Commissioner mentioned 36A. 36A, TxDot has done project. Everybody, you are aware of our project from Freeport all the way to Rosenberg on State Highway 36. So that's a major freight rail and also evacuation rail for the people in Brazoria County and also for Freeport to bring their goods and services to Rosenberg and maybe I-10 and further out west. So 36A is kind of the continuation of that route to head to I-10 and head up north to 290. And eventually, there's also some plans following the existing alignment and go all the way up to Fort Worth and Dallas, maybe. So it's a continually connecting major cities and all that. So those are crucial roadways that we're looking at to try and progress and get developed at this time.
And as you said earlier, Commissioner, these developments have a huge economic benefit, but it also makes our lives better, right? Because we save time in between getting from point A to point B. And so if you start connecting something like Dallas to Houston, making it easier to commute back and forth, that, it's the 8th largest media market, 4th largest media markets, you connect them together. For Texas, it becomes a really, really important stuff. And this freight traffic that we're talking about, I mean, anybody that drives down I-10 sees those, warehousing just built over time quickly, more and more and more. Well, the truck's got to take stuff back and forth from there, right? And your commuter traffic is part of it. So I want to get back to the conversation that you started, Commissioner, a little bit ago, which is kind of like the record investment that we're seeing coming from $140 billion. You told me not to get too excited, Mustafa, right? But $140 billion is a historic number that's coming out. So where do you see that headed? What initiative, what improvements particularly are you excited about?
Well, it's going to continue to increase. Part of it's inflation we can't get away from, but it's still, even taking inflation into account, it's a giant number compared to where we've been. 142 billion is a lot of projects. And of course, that allows us to get started on those projects now, like 36A. We can order the environmental and get that done now. That should continue. I don't think we're heading to $10 oil anytime soon.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be a pretty good income stream for quite a while for TxDot. But clearly, we've got to get some of these urban roads, though, finished, and like 45. And you look at the central business districts, other than, say, Fort Worth, they're a little in decline. And, the occupancy in downtown is pretty dismal. And I think it's actually worse than we think it is because some people just haven't left their lease spaces yet because the lease hasn't expired. We have to figure out how to get the decision makers that decide whether they're going to put their company out on Grand Parkway or downtown. We've got to get them into town quicker. And I was just meeting with Metro about that, and we're working on something that might help there. Commissioner Garcia said he would jump in and help us with that. But, it's not necessarily the rank and file that decide if Chevron's going to be downtown or out on the Grand Parkway. Let's face it, it's the executives that decide that. So we've got to create an avenue for them to get down there quickly. And that's not good right now. 45 is going to be transformational for downtown. We all need to get together and really expedite that. The funding's there, let's go. Condemnation's underway. We're back working on the project. That was all solved before I got here. But that's just going to be a transformative project for Houston. If you haven't seen it in video form, go onto YouTube and find it. It's really impactful. It's going to change things down there.
Yeah, it's very exciting. I was going to give Mark Williams, who's here today, I was going to give him a little badge that says $140 billion. You can kind of wear that. But I would Eliza a $14 billion badge. Right? It's $14 billion right here for the Houston region. What are the kind of like the project that you're thinking about locally here?
Well, I think our next 4 years letting volume is in the dollar amount about $5 billion. 2024 we're letting over $1 billion. 2025 is about 1.5. 2026 is about over $2 billion. And I actually told my TP&D, are you sure we can do this? To over $2 billion. When Gary Trish was the district engineer, a lot of you know him. He was the first one to hit the $1 billion mark, and they call him billion-dollar man. So now, every year, we have to at least hit 1 billion, if not more. That's your baseline letting volume. So we're doing a lot of that, and we are trying to get a lot of these projects done. One of the projects that we talk about, we've been working with Metro extensively on the Indicated project, which is the project on I-10 between 610 and downtown. And Metro has a bus lane project that they're trying to put in this corridor. And so we've been working with them extensively, and one of the ways we can get people into downtown quicker. So a lot of the projects, we are working with our partner, Harris County. We're talking with Roberto to try and work on some of the toll road projects in the region that he's trying to progress. The Hardy Toll Road is one of the ones that they desperately in need to try and get that built out, the direct connectors and all that. And I can't go on any discussion without talking about I-45. I-45, they always said, if you build it, they will come. And it is very, very true that if you build I-45, it will transform the area in downtown and all the surrounding area, all the way up to Beltway whenever we get it. There's tremendous drainage improvement that we're going to put in that project. And then we're also putting a lot of, we're building roads, but we're also building sidewalks, we're building bike lanes. We are doing a lot of additional work on that highway to try and make it the best highway that we have. It's a much needed project. It's one of our oldest freeway that has not been touched for years, I-45. So really just for maintenance, we have to do the job. There's no not doing anything on I-45. It's deteriorated to the point that something needs to be done to it, for sure. So like the commissioner say, we're going to try and get those projects out as quickly as possible. And I'm not going to guarantee, but I hope everybody will be pleased with the results once we get it done.
It's very exciting. You talked about your conversation with the governor and other people around him before you got on the board, on the commission as you were appointed. You've been kind of both in and out, right? As a developer, you're in part of everything. You're talking about from architecture, engineering, doing the construction, being part of that, engaging TxDot from an outside perspective. What do you suggest people like us sitting around these tables as TAG? What are the things that would be valuable to you as you take on this new position? What can we do for you?
Well, relative to permits and timing, I'd love to hear from people when they're having problems. We want to understand why. We would love, every engineering firm to educate their staff completely. We're coming out with some new apps for permitting and so forth for TxDot. And a lot of it's we need to educate the customer how to use it. And we need to make it better, and we need to have feedback. And but as I look at examples, a lot of time it's a young engineer that just doesn't know the ropes. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of senior guys in this room that do know the ropes, and they need to train them so that it's a better working relationship. And we really want to make that something great. So in a couple of years, they say, man, TxDOT's the best agency in Texas to work with. That's important.
Bruno and I were talking in the back earlier. There was a time where senior leaders in organizations, their job was to bring more business, engineering business into their firm, right? And that continues to grow. But as we look at like record funding, $140 billion, but not just at the TxDOT level, but at every level we're seeing significant funding. The federal government's put in $36 billion in Texas, right? So we're getting tremendous infrastructure dollars. I think some of the job of the senior leaders has to change back to being more in their shop and mentoring the next generation of leaders to make sure that the work actually gets out, not just that we bring the work into the shop, but that work is getting out. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about that. The commissioner actually has done a lot of things to try and streamline our process. This permit process is really not over yet. You know, there's more to come. And my experience with the permit process is if you send everything in that is required, it should go relatively quickly. You know, it still has to go to a pre-office for them to review, but half of the battle is trying to get all the information is. I'm missing this, I need this, and I all need that. And when you talk about the younger engineer, a lot of the time they're not aware of what it takes to get the permit process. You know, they send in their request with minimal information. We try and look at it, then we go ask them, okay, I need this, I need the traffic study, I need the hydraulic studies, I need something else. That's what takes a lot of time, the back and forth. And because there's downtime whenever you go back and forth a lot of the time. And same goes with our design efforts, all this work that is coming to us that, I mean, we're relying, everybody have short staff. Everybody is going to have an issue with having experienced people to do the amount of work that we're going to push out. So I was telling all my people, every single person in the company need to be training. It's not just the higher up, the big boss. It's not just the first line supervisor. It's the guy that's working next to you. If he knows how to do something, that's good. They can share the information and learn from each other. So it's really every single level of your agency, you all need to train each other. And when they get trained, the process will become more efficient and we'll help them do it too. I told everybody, I'll train any of the all my employees, they can all hire them, quit and go work for consultant. But I'll have a better consultant to work with them. You know, he's already trained, you know. So I think that is very important in today's environment. If we don't do that, then we either cranked out products that's not as high quality as it needs to be, or we just need to do it, you know, in order to get our program, get everything led, get it done right, get it done efficiently, but think of ways to streamline the process. You know, that's part of the key to do that.
Commissioner, if you've come in, kind of sit on the commission now, you know, historic number of record investment, what advice do you have for your fellow developer community, right? That you're still part of, but how do you want them to start interacting with TxDot?
You know, that's the question of the day. How do we transform that? But we're just having our first meeting, but even prior to our first task force meeting, we've put some clear things in place that have improved in 120 days. But Eliza's spot on. We've got to get these young engineers educated. If you old guys and gals aren't down there doing it personally, and you're sending some junior engineers down there, they need some training. And you know, everybody looks at us and say we're not letting stuff fast enough. And I want to address that a little bit because you guys do a lot of work for TxDot in the room, and I know we've got some contractors in here as well. We need you to think about growing your team a little bit. You know, the contractors, I ran into Williams Brothers. First thing I said to her is, man, can you double in size for us? And kind of what's happening to us a little bit at TxDot, it's unprecedented funding, and I think it's going to continue for a very long time. Mm-hmm. I don't think the oil's going backwards. If all my oil and gas friends are right, it's moving up. We're going to have more funding in TxDot, and Governor Abbott wants it out the door. But we've gone from kind of an average of 4.8 to 5.1 number of bids per contract, and we're down around the 3.1. That's not good. It's creating some of our own inflation. So we need the capacity, both engineering and contracting-wise, to grow in Texas. This is giant what's getting ready to come down. And we got to be prepared for it. They've got to staff up. They've got to invest in capital. into machinery. And so that keeps it competitive, and we don't want to create our own inflation, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that, you know, we as TAG also are kind of repositioning. We're creating a nonprofit group, you know, basically for leadership development. And so part of that, what we're sensing is there's not a shortage of money, but there is shortage of talent, right? There's shortage of like collaboration between agencies. And so as we talk to, you know, leaders in this room, you're no longer competing against each other, right? You're competing against yourself. How quickly can you deliver a project? How quickly can you, you know, build the next generation of leaders within your own company? So we all have to start focusing a little bit more internally into our own organizations, right? So that we're growing it from within. Because it's not like you don't want a California company, you don't want a Chicago company, right? You want a Texas company to grow right here. And we've got to invest in ourselves to do that. I want to thank the two of you, not for the conversation today, but really your leadership. Like this region is going to grow and it's going to prosper because for every dollar that's invested in infrastructure, there's $3 to $6 in economic development. So, you know, as Governor Abbott said this stuff, 7. Seven. It's the engineer correcting my math. This is a big thing. It's a big job. Mark, you, all of the commissioners, especially you, welcome to TAG, and thank you for your leadership and your kind of like urgency to move the ball. That's so much needed, and we really, really appreciate you being here. So
thank you for your time, and let me say thank you. Let me say thank you to the TxDot staff. You know, our executive director is here, Mark Williams. If you could stand maybe a minute. Let me tell you, if I was going to hire a CEO for NewQuest, he just checks all the boxes, you know, and he will be transformative at TxDot. And I'm excited about the team that's there. We've just got a tremendous team, and I guarantee you it's going to blossom. It's going to continue to be the best state to do business.
That's great. So I'll end with this. If Gary Treach was $1 billion guy, then Mark's a $100 billion guy.
Yeah.
With that, thank you.